podcast of the Lit Trip for the book Rascal by Sterling North. I would like to first start this lit trip by introducing Sterling North's boyhood home. At the turn of the century, it was called Brailsford Junction, but we know it better today as Edgerton, Wisconsin. Every year, Edgerton has a festival, a Sterling North book and art festival, where they celebrate local artists and they celebrate Sterling North's putting Edgerton on the map as a literary capital of Wisconsin. Our next point on the trip, will be the Sterling North family home. This is the house that Sterling North grew up in, and this is the house that he has written his biography / adventure with his pet raccoon Rascal. This is the house that he grew up in, and this is where Rascal slept next to him on his pillow. Today, it is home of the Sterling North Museum, and the house has been restored to, the inside of it has been restored to what it was at the turn of the century while he was a boy and having the adventures that he would soon put in his biography called Rascal. Our third spot on the tour is the cemetery, which is just south of the town. And this is important because this is the cemetery where Sterling North's mother is buried. And this is a big pivotal section in the book. This was a great influence on Sterling's life as a young man losing his mother. And I think she was a great advocate of wanting him and encouraging him to be a writer. The next point that we are going traveling to is the Rock River. This is where Sterling would spend a lot of his time fishing, especially with Rascal. Rascal loved to fish, and he was always amazed that the raccoon, being swiped out of his mother's nest quite early by a young Sterling North, learned how to fish, and he was perplexed at how this little raccoon just knew basic nature and how to fish without anybody showing him the methods. Our next item on the trip is Lake Koshkonong and the marshes that are around it. One of the great parts of this book is that it is so filled with ecology of Wisconsin. And in part of this, they go to Lake Koshkonong because Sterling has never seen or heard a whippoorwill. So his father takes the day off of work and they go to the marshes that are around Lake Koshkonong, and he listens and he sees his first whippoorwill. When Rascal gets into some trouble with his neighbors over sweet corn, his father takes him up for 2 weeks, and they camp here off of the Brule River up in Superior, Wisconsin. And this is actually now a national state forest. So this is where they would have gone and camped. And actually, I don't think they camped in tents. They just strung their hammocks between 2 trees and slept out in the open. So that was quite brave. My last 2 points on this lit trip take place overseas. As this book the events of this book was happening in 1918. This was right in the height and the end of World War I. And Sterling's brother, Herschel, was over fighting in France at this point in time. So after the armistice, he said where he had been, and one of the places that he had been fighting was in Alsace, which is in France. After the armistice in 1918, he was then sent to Koblenz, Germany, where he was debriefed and he had to help build a bridge over the Rhine, the River Rhine. And he didn't come home until he was disbanded and debriefed from the Army. So I hope you enjoyed my Rascal Lit trip, and I hope that you learned a little bit of something. And if you have never been to Edgerton to see the Sterling North festival or have gone to his boyhood home, I would highly recommend it. It's not very far from us.